I own a large piece of land in a rural area, the kind of place where I can enjoy peace and quiet without dealing with city life's daily annoyances. I like my space, my privacy, and the lifestyle that comes with it. I park my truck wherever I want, let my dogs roam around, and yes, I even have a horse, so you could say I live what some might call a modern-day cowboy kind of life. Nothing fancy, nothing complicated, just me, my property, and my normal, everyday routine. A while back, a new neighbor moved in next door. From the moment I met her, I knew she wasn't going to fit in very well around here. She came off as entitled, loud, and frankly a bit trashy, the kind of person my mom would have called a total brat if she were still around. Our first interaction already rubbed me the wrong way. I was working outside when she walked up and assumed I was some kind of landscaper or handyman. She asked how much I charged and mentioned that her yard needed tending. I told her, politely, that I live here, that most people just take care of their own yards. She looked at me like I'd said something ridiculous, like maintaining your own property was some strange, unheard-of concept. That was just the start. She seemed to have a problem with my dogs and my horse simply existing. She complained about them constantly, calling it a zoo-like environment, even though everyone around here has pets, and half the neighborhood owns horses. It's part of the lifestyle. She started inviting family over and apparently began showing them parts of my land, not hers, mine, pretending it belonged to her. She told them she had plots available for sale and even took deposits from them. I had no idea any of this was happening until neighbors started telling me they'd seen her walking around my property with other people. At first, I didn't quite believe it, but then word spread that she was bragging about making real estate deals in the area, claiming she sold 5 separate plots all on land she definitely did not own. It made zero sense. There were no plots for sale in the neighborhood. Her own land wasn't big enough to divide up, and even if it was, there's no way she would have gotten approval from the city that quickly. Not long after hearing these rumors, I saw 2 people actually on my property, measuring tape in hand, placing stakes into the ground. I approached them calmly, asking what they were doing. They told me Karen had sold them the land and that they were just getting ready to set up a trailer and build something. I told them flat out, I hadn't sold anything. This was my land, and they needed to stop and leave immediately. But they just shrugged me off, saying Karen had already taken their money and they were just following through. It was clear this wasn't just a misunderstanding, it was a full-blown scam. Karen showed up shortly after, arms crossed, smug look on her face, clearly proud of herself. I told her and her family members to get off my property. I reiterated that she had no right to sell any part of my land, regardless of whether they paid her a deposit or not. And then, get this, she called the cops on me. Claimed I was trespassing on her land. When the officers arrived, she spun this wild story about owning part of my property and letting her family build little homesteads there. According to her, I was the one harassing them and trying to ruin her plans. I explained that I've owned the land for years and have been paying taxes on it the whole time. Unfortunately, I didn't have the official paperwork on me that day, so the police couldn't immediately verify who was telling the truth. The officer basically said it was a civil matter and told both of us to stay off the land until things got sorted out in court. Karen smirked like she'd won. Like she thought she could just walk all over me and make up whatever story suited her best. But I knew I had to act fast. The next day, I went straight to the county office to get proof of ownership. Turns out, the main office didn't have the records, so I had to drive across town to a different land office. There, I got a copy of the official land map showing exactly what I owned, solid proof that Karen had lied through her teeth. I also dug a little deeper and found out this wasn't her first rodeo. She had a history of buying small plots of land next to larger ones and trying to claim parts of the surrounding property. Other landowners had filed complaints against her before, accusing her of encroachment and shady behavior. So yeah, this was definitely not new for her. I also realized I was wrong about her family being just as bad as her. Some of them started coming by, asking to see the land map again. A few were clearly confused, maybe even starting to doubt Karen's version of events. One even apologized later on, realizing they'd been scammed. Since it was now a civil matter, I figured taking legal action would help my case in court. I hired a lawyer who specializes in land fraud and property disputes. I gave him the full story, how Karen had tried to encroach, then outright fabricated sales to her family, acting like a real estate agent for land that was never on the market. Turns out, Karen had also hired a lawyer, probably by lying about the entire situation. When we finally went to court, I presented the official land map, tax records, and everything else proving beyond a doubt that the property was mine. Karen sighed. She brought in a forged land map, one that claimed her tiny plot somehow included half of my land. Of course, since my documents were official and hers couldn't be verified, the court didn't buy it for a second. Her own lawyer looked stunned, clearly misled by her lies. The ruling was clear. Karen had to stay off my property. If anyone tried to trespass or build on it, the police would handle it immediately. But that wasn't the end of her problems. Her family was furious. They wanted their deposits back, and Karen refused to give them up. Eventually, they had to sue her just to get their money back. Some even apologized to me afterward, shocked that someone in their own family could pull such a stunt. The state decided to get involved too. Karen was hit with formal charges of property fraud. Turns out, scamming people out of their money doesn't go unnoticed for long. She was fined, given a criminal record, and now faces serious consequences if she tries anything like this again. Needless to say, she's not very popular around here anymore. People know exactly what she did, and she's become the talk of the community, not in a good way. Now, every time she walks outside, she hears whispers. People don't hide their opinions about her anymore. I'm not saying people should bully her, but I do think she's getting exactly what she deserves. She acted like she was better than everyone else, thought she could run roughshod over people and get away with it. Now, she's learning what it feels like to be completely unwelcome. And honestly, that's justice enough for me. So, the story goes like this. I'm 24, female, and I live in a pretty cheap, run-down apartment with 3 other roommates. All of us were around the same age and worked low-paying jobs in fast food, except for one roommate, who I'll call the bank teller. She had just started working at a bank after losing her previous job in fast food. Money was always tight for all of us. We worked long hours for not much pay, but we made it work by splitting rent 4 ways and being careful with every dollar. About 3 months ago, she lost her fast food job, something that happens to everyone in that industry eventually. Whether it's a new manager who doesn't like you or an emergency shift conflict that gets you fired on the spot, it's part of the territory. At first, she promised she was looking for work, but I never actually saw her applying for anything or going to interviews. Instead, she spent most of her time watching TV and scrolling on her phone while the rest of us picked up extra shifts just to make sure we could cover rent when it came due. Then came the moment where she broke down and said she couldn't pay her share. She was in tears, begging us not to kick her out, saying she'd be evicted if we didn't help her. She promised, over and over, that as soon as she got a job, she'd pay us back. "Please, I have nowhere else to go," she said. We felt bad. We all knew what it was like to be one emergency away from homelessness. So the 3 of us scraped together the extra money to cover her portion of the rent. It meant I couldn't pay my phone bill that month and had to survive on ramen noodles for 2 weeks, but we did it. And she thanked us endlessly, calling us the best roommates ever. A couple of months later, things finally looked up for her. She landed a job at a bank, her dream, apparently, and told us excitedly that her first paycheck would be big enough to take us all out for drinks. We were genuinely happy for her. Moving from fast food to a bank job is a huge step up, better pay, better hours, no more smelling like fryer oil or dealing with angry customers. But once she started her new job, everything changed. She started dressing differently, not our usual discount store stuff, but actual nice clothes. She began doing her hair and makeup more, and even brought home expensive takeout to eat in front of us while we ate our budget meals. 2 weeks into her new job, she got her first paycheck. I remember that day clearly. My phone service had been shut off because I still hadn't paid my bill, and I was waiting for her to come through on her promise so I could get it turned back on. When she walked in, I asked if she got paid that day. She nodded, but didn't look me in the eye. "Yeah, but I couldn't cash it during work hours," she said. "Bank policy. I'll go tomorrow and pay you guys back." I thought it was weird. She worked at a bank, after all, but I let it slide. One more day wouldn't kill me. Friday came, and we were all excited because she had promised to pay us back and take us out for drinks. But when she got home, she was carrying a shopping bag from a high-end department store. "Check out my new work clothes," she said, pulling out blouses and dress pants still with the tags on. One blouse alone cost more than I made in a single day. Trying to stay calm, I asked, "What about paying us back for rent? We're all counting on that money." Her face changed instantly. The smile dropped, replaced by a cold, dismissive look. "I can't pay you back yet," she said. "I needed these clothes for work. You wouldn't understand. It's a professional environment. I can't show up looking like I still work in fast food." Another roommate tried to reason with her. "We really need that money, though. I've been picking up double shifts just to keep up with the bills." She rolled her eyes. "You guys just don't get it. Working at a bank isn't like working some greasy fast food place. They have expectations. I have an image to maintain." Then she added, almost cruelly, "But you wouldn't understand because you're only in food service. Some of us have real careers now." She stormed off to her room, leaving us in stunned silence. We had helped her when she was at her lowest, and now that she was doing better, she treated us like we were beneath her. The weekend passed in awkward tension. We tried talking to her again about the money, but she kept repeating that we didn't understand professional expectations and that we'd get paid when she could spare it. Sunday night, things took a turn. She started panicking, tearing apart her room, then the living room, then the kitchen. "I can't find my name tag," she cried. "I need it for work tomorrow. My boss already warned me about not being dressed properly." We all helped search for a little while, but after an hour of nothing, I gave up and went to the kitchen for a glass of water. That's when I saw it. Her name tag was sitting on top of the microwave, partially hidden behind the coffee maker. I stood there for a second, staring at it. And then I made a choice. I thought about how she had treated us since getting that job. How she looked down on us for still working in fast food. How she bought herself expensive clothes instead of paying us back. How she basically told us that our struggles didn't matter because we were just in food service. So I walked away, without saying a word. For the rest of the night, she tore the apartment apart, crying and saying her boss would fire her if she showed up without it. I sat on the couch, pretending to watch TV, knowing exactly where it was and choosing to say nothing. Eventually, she gave up and begged us to text her immediately if anyone found it. "Please," she said. "I have to leave early tomorrow to explain and ask for another one." I nodded and said, "Sure, if I see it, I'll let you know." The next morning, she left for work early, still without the name tag. After she was gone, I went to the kitchen, took the name tag from behind the coffee maker, and just left it on the counter. I figured someone else would find it and tell her. And they did. She came home that evening stressed and annoyed. She had gotten a new name tag, but her boss gave her a hard time about it. She didn't thank anyone for finding the original one, just complained about how humiliating it was. Weeks went by, and she still hadn't paid us back. In fact, she bought even more new clothes, went out to fancy restaurants, and even booked a weekend trip to a concert in another city, but somehow, she still didn't have the money to pay us back. We finally had a house meeting and told her she needed to either pay up or move out. She flipped out, called us jealous and unsupportive, and moved out the following weekend, still owing us money. Sometimes I do feel a little guilty about the name tag. I didn't steal it or hide it. I just chose not to speak up when I saw it. But honestly, I also feel like she deserved that tiny bit of stress after the way she treated us, especially after we helped her when she had nothing. Let me know in the comments, do you think Opie was the a-hole for not telling their roommate where the name tag was? Comment number 1. You didn't hide or steal it. You just refused to go out of your way to help someone who was treating you like garbage. She showed her true colors the minute she got that job, looking down on people who helped her when she had nothing. The "you're only in food service" comment alone makes her the AH here. Comment number 2. You're the AH. Holy crap, you risked her entire career over pride? She was late paying you back by a few weeks. Do you even realize how hard it is to land a decent job these days? And yes, bank tellers do need professional clothes. What did you expect her to do? Show up in a drive-through uniform? Comment number 3. I'm with comment 1. She acted like she was better than everyone else the second she got that job. And you handled it calmly. You didn't sabotage her. You just didn't rush to save her after how she treated you. Update from OP. This blew up overnight, so let me answer a few common questions. No, she never paid us back. Last I heard, she moved in with some other friends and probably pulled the same thing on them. Yes, we tried small claims court, but she kept missing court dates, and eventually we gave up because we were all too busy working to keep taking time off for legal stuff. And for those asking, the name tag incident happened about 2 months before she moved out. We kicked her out about 3 weeks after that, when it became obvious she had no intention of paying us back. Oh, here's another great story of malicious compliance, something that, let's be honest, we've all probably been tempted to do at some point. This one takes place in a supermarket and starts with a customer who thought he was being clever. It was a Saturday morning around 9 a.m., and I was working the checkout like normal. A guy comes up with his cart full of groceries, and when I greeted him with a friendly "Good morning, would you like a bag?" he shot back sarcastically, "No, I'm going to carry all of this by myself." Now, maybe it was the tone. Maybe it was the fact that I was already having a rough day. Or maybe it was just the way he said it, like he was better than everyone else. Either way, I decided to play along. I smiled brightly and said, "Okay, sir, no problem." Then I scanned everything as usual, rang him up, and he paid without a word. For a moment after the transaction was done, he just stood there staring at his pile of groceries like he wasn't sure what came next. Finally, he looked at me and asked, "Where are my bags?" And I responded, still smiling, "Oh, I'm so sorry, sir. I thought you said you were going to carry them yourself." He got instantly angry. "Well, obviously I can't carry all of this without a bag." "Oh, okay," I said, pretending to catch on for the first time. In that case, I launched into the standard spiel about single-use versus reusable bags, the usual script we had to follow, and wouldn't you know it, we were completely out of the type of bags he wanted. So I had to call over a manager to bring more bags, which, in this particular supermarket, always took forever. The customer grumbled but waited. Eventually, the bags arrived. He had to pay a small fee again, and I handed him the bags and his receipt with a smile. Then I just didn't help him pack. He had to stand there and bag all his own groceries while scowling the entire time. Normally, I would have helped, but since he specifically said he didn't want any bags in the first place and made a bit of a scene about carrying them himself, I figured I'd stick to the plan. What started as a 5-minute transaction turned into a 15-minute ordeal. And honestly, he never pulled that stunt with me again. I have no idea what he actually expected when he watched me scan every item and stack it up in a giant, unbagged pile, but hey, he said no bags, and I honored that. Now, the next one is another malicious compliance story, this time from school. So, the story goes like this. It happened today, fresh in my mind, during an algebra test. The teacher had stepped out of the room briefly, and someone sitting near me asked for answers. That someone was a kid I secretly hated for almost a year because of something he did, and I'll explain that in a second. Turns out, he skipped a question and accidentally filled in about 75% of the test in the wrong section, making all those answers wrong. So he asked me if I could erase them so he could copy off my paper instead. His excuse? His arm hurt, and he needed help. I was nearly finished with my own test, so I agreed, but not in the way he expected. I finished my test, erased his answers like I said I would, and then immediately turned mine in. He was left scrambling with only 5 to 10 minutes left to answer about 30 questions he hadn't even started. Right in the middle of him desperately pleading with me to give him the answers, the teacher walked back in and asked what was going on. I told her exactly what happened. David was trying to copy off me. And honestly, no regrets. A lot of people asked for clarification about why I had such a strong reaction to him, so here's the backstory. We met through a youth group. At my church, I'm Catholic, and one day I was showing a friend some photos on my phone. I scrolled past a picture of David looking well, let's just say not very flattering. My friend cracked up laughing and asked me to go back to that photo. So I did, and a few other people gathered around, curious. One of them? Yep, David himself. He saw the picture and snatched my phone right out of my hands, running into the bathroom before I could stop him. I chased him and started knocking on the door, demanding that he give it back. He ran out while I was yelling at him, still holding my phone, and just slammed it into the ground as hard as he could. The screen shattered instantly, and the home button never worked the same again. He barely apologized. He gave me $20 and said, "Hopefully this will be enough for a screen protector." Meanwhile, the phone cost me $210. But this wasn't even the first time he messed with me. 2 years earlier, he broke my laptop, and my dad ended up buying a new hard drive just to fix it. Then he broke my cousin's lamp twice, and his parents just kept replacing things for him. That's the kind of kid he was. Rich, spoiled, and clearly used to getting whatever he wanted without consequences. So yeah, when he tried to cheat off me during the test, I figured he finally got what was coming to him. Some people in the comments called me a bully, but honestly, I don't see it. If anything, I just followed through on his request, the same way he smashed my phone and refused to really pay for it. Let me know in the comments, do you prefer malicious compliance stories or revenge ones? Personally, I lean toward revenge. But I also get it. There are way more malicious compliance stories out there, especially these days. They're funny, frustrating, and sometimes perfectly poetic. Before we wrap up today's video, let's end on a lighter and honestly pretty funny note. This one comes from the subreddit r/malicious compliance, and it's a classic example of what happens when someone tries to be too strict with the rules. The story is titled, "Boss said we must take lunch at 12 o'clock, so we did." So, the OP used to work at a job where lunch breaks were flexible. Employees could take their lunch anytime between 11:30 a.m. and 2 p.m. as long as someone was always around to cover the phones and customer service. It worked fine. People coordinated on their own, things kept running smoothly, and everyone got their break without any issues. Then came the new manager. Out of nowhere, he decided that flexibility was a problem. He announced that everyone had to take their lunch break all together at exactly 12 p.m., no exceptions. No questions, no discussion. That was the rule now. Well, guess what happened when 12 o'clock hit? Every single person walked away from their desk at the exact same time. Phones were ringing. Customers were in the middle of sentences. Orders were halfway done. And suddenly nothing. Everyone just disappeared for lunch. The boss? Panicked. Completely overwhelmed trying to juggle everything himself while the office turned into chaos. By the time the team came back from lunch, the place was a total mess. Calls had gone unanswered, customers were confused, and there was no one left to handle anything while they were all gone. Needless to say, the next day brought a quick change to the rulebook. The new manager posted an update. Lunch hours were once again allowed between 11:30 a.m. and 2 p.m. And wouldn't you know it, things went right back to normal. Smoothly, without any problems. It's kind of amazing how fast policies can change when employees follow the rules just a little too literally. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed these stories, definitely check out my playlist full of more petty revenge, neighbor drama, and malicious compliance goodness.